and welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokpe Ogun Yusuf. July the 12th each year is now celebrated as World Malala Day in honor of a young Pakistani lady who's given her life to advocate for the education of the girl child. In August 2012, Malala Yousafzai was nearly killed after she was shot in the head and neck by a young Talib who sought to stop her from her advocacy that girls be allowed to go to school, a right which the Taliban had placed an embargo on in the places they had taken control of, including the Swat Valley region of Pakistan, where Malala hails from. Malala miraculously survived the murder attempt on her life and has since continued to raise her voice even louder for the education of girls everywhere. In 2014, she received the Nobel Peace Prize, becoming the youngest ever Nobel laureate. This year, she came to Nigeria alongside the Deputy UN Secretary General Amina Mohammed to celebrate her day, which coincides with her birthday. Hard Copy got an opportunity to speak with her on her life, her work, and why she chose to spend this day in Nigeria, but not without first wishing her a happy birthday and asking how she feels at 26.
Pretty old. Yeah, but it's important for me because it marks 10 years of my speech at the UN, which people still remember and talk about. And that was my first speech after I was attacked. So I told my story, but I also told the world that it's so important for us to invest in girls' education and that this should not happen again.
So I don't know if there's a reason why you've chosen Nigeria this time around to celebrate. Well, of course, we feel very special that you've decided to come here. But is there a reason? Is there a particular reason why you've chosen Nigeria?
I'm in Nigeria because Nigeria has one of the highest number of out-of-school girls. And at the same time, Nigeria was also one of the first few countries where we started our program through Malala Fund. Right now, we have a group of advocates for education consisting of more than 20 organizations and partners, and we work in 9 states here. We have invested up to $6.1 million, and we have a commitment of $2 million towards these education programs. We work with girls advocates, we work with education advocates, and it's incredible to see that work. So I wanted to bring attention to that. And Nigeria is also at a very critical stage because we have a newly formed government now, and they will be deciding the next this government's plan, and they'll be deciding the budget as well. And it's really important for us to remind them that they remember that girls should not be left behind. And I hope that they make girls a priority. And we are asking them at the state and federal level to make financial commitment towards education, 4% of the GDP and 22.5% of their budget towards education. And then in addition to that, make it gender inclusive, make sure that the policies in these legislations are taken from the gender lens as well, so we can address the specific challenges that girls face. In addition to that, it's also important that every state and the federal government ensure that they promise a complete education to every child in Nigeria. In some states, it's only up to 9 years. So we need to make sure that it goes up to 12 years of complete education. The senior secondary schooling is important because we see a huge dropout of girls at that stage. So for girls to have access to a complete school education, it will ensure that, that they don't drop out because of the financial reasons. So a free, complete education is what I hope for in Nigeria. And this is always my birthday wish every year. So I travel around the world and I remind people that education is important. Don't think about girls, invest in girls.
I think it's already fed very naturally into the next question I was going to ask you, which is about the issue of 12, why you've chosen 12, because I see that 12 kind of features a lot. Your birthday is on July the 12th, and sadly, that very dastardly incident was also sometime in 2012 as well. So quite a lot of 12s going on. But it's interesting. You're not pushing for 12 years, and you do acknowledge that Nigeria does have 9 years of basic education. But has there been anything that has filled you with optimism in terms of, since when this advocacy began? Because I see that you went to Borno State, Maiduguri, where we have quite a significant population displaced as a result of terrorism. Have there been improvements, and have you seen more changes to attitudes towards especially girl-child education?
Yeah. So on your first point about 12 years of education, it's important because completing education up to 12 years helps girls unlock their potential. They can make choices in their life, whether they want to have a more academic career, they want to get into jobs, they want to explore a specific field. 9 years of education does not really, it leaves girls at an incomplete state. And we want to make sure that girls have that complete education so that they can have a more clear path for deciding their future.
But it's not just girls, it's everyone. I mean, boys and girls are educated compulsorily for 9 years.
Yes.
So if you say that the girl child is going to be left incomplete if she only has 9 years, what about the boy child?
It's absolutely true. Both girls and boys are left behind. But we need to also talk about the problems that girls face. Of course, girls and boys are facing challenges, but the challenges are different as well. There are commonalities and differences. Extreme poverty on the one hand, lack of infrastructure on the other hand. But also, when we talk about girls, we have to talk about child marriage. We have to talk about menstrual hygiene. We have to talk about harassment and safety. We have to talk about reproductive health. We have to talk about teenage pregnancies. So those are the issues that girls specifically face. And because of that, we see a huge dropout at the secondary level. And so girls need that extra support. Girls need, we need to make sure that of course we make a commitment to all children, but that we bring the gender lens into those policies. I hope that, every child in Nigeria has access to education. It is as important for girls as it is for boys. And I think, it's not just like a women's or a girls issue only. I think it's an issue for this whole country. So I hope that, we collaborate with these activists who are doing work on the ground. We collaborate with girls, we collaborate with young people, and government has a more inclusive way of addressing these challenges. My concern is always don't leave the girls behind, because at default, most of these policies do not look at gender. They do not address the issues that girls face.
I sincerely hope that governments begin to put their mouths, put their money where they put their mouths, because I know that in almost all of the countries that you visit, you suddenly get fine promises. But in the speech which you gave at the United Nations headquarters here in Nigeria yesterday, you asked that, we look at the budget and see that they actually put in the money to support the promises that they're making. But in terms of attitudes, do you see a shift? Your dad has been extremely instrumental to, pushing forward and encouraging you. He's been a real rock for you. Do you see parents, I know it's a bit difficult to measure, but would you say that from the enrollment that we're seeing, would we say that attitudes towards the girl-child education are changing?
There's always hope. And looking at, some of the progress that we have seen, yes, indeed. Parents' attitude changes, the society's attitude changes, and a lot of the people who you meet and you ask, why is it so hard for you to send your daughters to schools? Most of them do say that it is the problem with the safety of schools, it is the problem with the transportation, it is the problem with the quality of education, or that there are no schools. So if we can guarantee quality education, good infrastructure, with all the facilities, I think that will ensure that more parents and communities will be able to send daughters to schools, and it will address a lot of the problems. Of course, there are still, gender norms that are still playing a role, even when the facilities are available. I think in that we need to work together with the community leaders. We need to ensure that they realize that educating girls is not a threat against the culture, against religion, against tradition. And sometimes we see that the tradition and culture is rather misused to promote misogyny and patriarchy. And so I am hoping that we'll have brave fathers like my father who step up for their daughters, amazing mothers who do not let any injustice happen to their daughters, brothers who are proud of what their sisters achieve, and we'll have imams and priests who do not let anyone twist the faith to promote any harm and discrimination against women. And I hope that we'll have a community that ensures that girls and women are treated fairly, and that ensures that there are equal rights for girls and women.
Are there countries that you're currently, that the Malala Fund is currently working in, that you would say, oh, you're really, really, you would like maybe what they've done in that country to be replicated in many other countries that still have this issue of, girls still not going to school as they ought to be?
So when we started this network of education activists, we started with Nigeria, Pakistan, and we expanded to India, Brazil, Ethiopia, and Lebanon, and many other places. And this network of activists, when they come together, they are learning from each other's work and experiences. They're sharing what is working and what's not. So I think collective advocacy and activism is so important, because you can share solidarity with each other. You can also learn from each other, but also you can work collectively. You realize that you're not alone in this journey. And when you work collectively, your voice is even more powerful.
Indeed. You didn't quite give an example of a place where you would say you've seen remarkable progress.
Yes. So we have seen progress in different parts. For example, in Pakistan, our activists together with the government started a partnership that focuses on STEAM education, which means sciences, technology, arts, mathematics, and the goal is to reach to 13,000 schools by 2025 and make sure that girls get the best quality education in those government schools. And in Brazil as well, our activists are coming together, and they have already passed legislations. They have already received commitments at the national level. And we have similar stories from other places as well, where they have passed a legislation, they have received a commitment. But we also know that, for example, when I was in Pakistan, the chief minister, they made a commitment to give training to additional 10,000 to 20,000 teachers. Of course, commitment is the beginning, but we need to make sure that we follow up and we keep on reminding them of their promises. Advocacy is a very challenging task. We want leaders to say it, we want them to make the commitment, we want to follow up with them, we want them to make it part of the law and then also implement it. It needs to be translated into action as well. So it's a long process, and that's why I'm so inspired by the work that education activists do, including those in Nigeria, because they have been working for decades and decades, and they have changed so much already. So I am optimistic. Even when we look at Nigeria, they have passed the Child Right Act in a few states now, and they hope that other states follow as well, and they pass this law to extend the commitment for education from 9 years to 12 years. It would benefit all children in Nigeria.
Let's get a little bit personal now. You got married 2 years ago. Congratulations on that. And for a number of people, I think they were quite happy. Most people would have sent you congratulatory messages, those who could, and generally the world. For you, because I do know that initially you had a different mindset about marriage, and how has it changed? Has it in any way affected your work, or has it in any way enhanced the work that you do?
As a women's rights and girls' rights activist, I was so focused on my mission that I never even thought about getting married. And I said, I don't want to get married. I said, this is a complicated thing. And I had also heard about child marriages, forced marriages. And, just the really difficult and sad stories of what women and girls have gone through. We have heard about violence and abuse within marriages as well, and how so many girls get married without their choice even.
Indeed.
So I was like, the best way is to stay away from that topic completely. But then I found the person who is a best friend, who is the right partner, who helps me and supports me in my work, and he brings more joy to life.
Aww.
So there I was like, he is the right one, but okay, I need to now think about what marriage means and like what would that do to who I am in my, in my life, in my mission. Mm-hmm. So there was like a lot going on at that time in my mind, and I think it should be, it's the time and space you need, and it's every girl and like every young woman's right to think through these things and to process them and to talk to people. And then I decided that yes, I want to be with this person and I want to get married, and also it was a time to reflect on what marriage should mean. And marriage is basically, this friendship and companionship between two people who say that they will respect each other, they will support each other in the life journeys, and they will bring more happiness and joy to each other's life. I tell people if the other person doesn't bring any joy and happiness, there's no need to get married if you're happy single already. So
you should see how your face lights up when you're talking about it. So I think that, yes, indeed, the light and joy is certainly there. But initially, when you were not very certain if you were going to get married, were your parents concerned?
I think for my parents, of course, they were seeing a stranger. They're like, who's this guy, and what is happening? And our daughter is going to get married. But I think that's the roller coaster of emotions that every parent would go through. Mm-hmm. But they were also very supportive, and they are, really happy for me. And my husband he's a great guy, and he supports me in everything. So I feel lucky, but I also think that it's important that we do talk about marriage and forced marriages, and and also question how it is happening right now and how we need to change that to make sure that it improves the lives of both partners.
I mean, I saw that you also visited the vice president, who was former governor of Borno State. I imagine that you must have met him as governor when he was there. And he also has a very, well, you can tell us, but he says he had a program for girl children, or for child education while he was governor of Borno State. So how did the meeting with him go?
Yes, so I had the opportunity to meet the vice president, and I am really optimistic about his commitment towards education. I later saw his tweets as well, and he has made a very strong commitment to girls' education. And I've been doing advocacy for a very long time, and I will say that, you often hear leaders make very broad and sort of generalized commitments that is not actually addressing the specific issues that girls are facing. So I'm really happy that they are saying that education will be their priority. They will be thinking about girls, and they will be ensuring that in Nigeria, every child has access to quality education. So I'm really happy about that. And I also had the opportunity to meet the current governor of Borno State as well. And even in my meeting with him, he has also pledged that they will be focusing on girls' education. I think this is the beginning. I hope that government, the civil society, education activists, girls activists, as has Malala Fund, we all come together and do this work collectively to ensure that every girl in Nigeria and every child in Nigeria has access to complete and quality education, and they can go and follow their dreams.
Have you been able to really get past the incident of 2012? I mean, I imagine that it must have been really traumatic. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Thankfully, you pulled through, and you pulled through even stronger. But are there times when you still think about it and you think, oh, I nearly lost my life? Do you still think about it?
To be honest, yes, in the past 10 years, from time to time, when I have reflected on it, I have no other thoughts than to say that I'm grateful, because it has been a miracle. And I think that this is a second life that is for this purpose of education for all girls. And I know that they wanted to stop me from speaking out for my right to education and for the rights of other girls to education. But now the best way to fight back is to make sure that we educate all girls.
Well, we do hope that as much as possible that many girls, especially young ladies in rural areas, especially where it is very difficult for them to get an education, will listen to your story. I mean, we'll be able to hear it one way or the other, and they will truly be inspired to know that, it's possible to get an education despite difficulties. For those people, and I don't know, I'm praying that, that message eventually gets to them, at least through the work that journalists do. What would you say to them, for those who are still in a place of struggle, maybe those who have been told, oh, you can no longer continue school, we can no longer afford to send you to school, or no, as a result of traditions, culture, maybe, oh, you have to pull out of school, it's time for you to get married. What would you say to them?
I had the opportunity to meet girls in Abuja and in Maiduguri as well. I went to 3 schools and I met girls. They shared their stories with me. They had a lot more hope and optimism about their future. They were, some of them were in really good schools, so they were very lucky that they were getting the opportunity. And a lot of them had gone through a very traumatic experience as well because of the insurgencies that they had faced in their areas. And but now with this education that the teachers in this community was providing them, they were building resilience, and they were even more committed to have a future for themselves and other girls like them. So when I saw that, that gave me hope. And at the same time, they were also telling us about the challenges that they face, including marriages and lack of menstrual hygiene care and lack of reproductive health education and many other things. So when you hear that, you realize these girls' voices need to be heard, their stories need to be heard. And I want to tell girls that their stories are important. Those are the stories that everybody needs to hear. And I also tell young people, especially girls, that, of course we want everyone else to care about them, but sometimes they may not see that, that sometimes they may see that the world is actually silent. So they might have to step up and speak out for themselves. So don't wait for anyone else to be your representatives and to be your advocates. You can be the advocate for yourself. So do speak out, do raise your voice, do try hard for your education. We know that there are challenges, but if you get an opportunity, consider yourself lucky and work hard and try to help others if you can as well, if you get the opportunity to complete your education. So I believe in the leadership of girls, and girls are they are a powerful voice, and I hope that we will all support them as well.
So I have to say thank you so much, Malala. Thank you so much for coming to Nigeria. Thank you for the work that you do for child education. And we certainly wish you and Malala Fund all the best as you continue in this advocacy. Happy birthday to you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Well, that's the program tonight. We would love to hear from you. Please use the handles showing on your screen to send us a message. Thank you for watching. I'm Yousafzai. Good night.